we have in this half hour of Newsmaker, Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. Wanted to start out with, we had conflicting reports out of the Albany media over the weekend about reopening the area. Melissa DeRosa, the governor's secretary, said one thing. The Albany Times-Union said another. Other media outlets reported something completely different. What's the story?
Yeah, I know there was some confusion. I think when the governor did an order extending pause to June 7th, but it was really specific to some other orders, not the whole issue about the reopening, which would be allow regions to reopen after May 15th if they meet the certain criteria. I'm certainly glad that they clarified that, because that certainly would have just brought back a more concern relative to this issue. So right now, as it stands, the May 15th regions who meet certain criteria, who meet the, I guess there's 7 checklists that the governor outlined, things of dealing with, 14-day hospital decline, capacity of hospital beds, capacity of ICU beds. And then the 2 areas that a week ago when they were talking about this, that Southern Tier, which is our region, for Hornell, Steuben County, Chemung County, Schuyler County, heading towards Binghamton in that economic development zone. There are 2 areas that we had not yet met, at least according to their metrics, which was the testing and the tracers. I definitely want to give a shout out to Congressman Reed, who was very instrumental in getting Quest Diagnostics to help provide more tests to the area. And then also the other area was the tracers. So it sounds like, at least the feedback we're getting right now, I know that our county leaders at every level across the Southern Tier region have been working together hand in hand, as making sure they're getting all the accurate data they need so they can be presented to the state to show they meet their criteria. The feedback and reports coming back, I know the Broome County executives had a comment earlier this weekend, I think, saying that he's been on the phone with the state and saying that the Southern Tier does meet that criteria. But obviously we want to confirm that and make sure of that, and so we would be set for a Phase 1 reopening. And Phase 1 would involve, as the governor had talked about, would be construction and manufacturing, and I believe curbside retail. So the governor laid out a phased reopening. So that would be the first phase. It would be good to get this started. I think it's ready to get this started. So yes, but we certainly need more clarification and more specifics. I believe the governor had indicated that there's going to be more specific details and laid out later today in his briefing. So hopefully that comes and provides a little bit more certainty for individuals, but and businesses, so we can get moving on this, because we need to do what we can to reopen our economy and get people back to work. So this will be a good start. So we'll see where that goes. But that was the confusion that came out when the extension. There was a talk about extending the pause to June 7th. I believe that dealt with other specific executive orders and other, not the whole big scale of the reopening. So Melissa DeRosa clarified that and said that regions are still meeting that May 15th those guidelines, and they could be on track to open up. So I think you'll see some of our upstate regions opening up in a limited fashion first, but at least hopefully be on the right track to get our economy opened up again.
Now, do you have a sense of when Western New York would open up? And that's, I believe, Allegheny County included in Western New York versus the Southern Tier, which would be more Steuben County area. Do you have a sense of when those, would it be opening the same time? How's that work?
Well, that's the thing. I think that's the concern a lot of us have, and a lot, especially from the Southern Tier region, Allegheny, Cattaraugus, Chautauqua County. When you look at their infection rates and the number of cases they have, they're very limited. There's not that many of them, but they're tied into the Buffalo-Erie County Regional Economic Development Council region, and the governor keeps talking about doing these by regions, and I think it would be unfortunate if those Allegheny County, Cattaraugus County, Chautauqua County get lumped in with Erie County, which is not ready to open by the criteria, just and get held back just because those areas where we're not that close to. Allegheny County is not that close to Buffalo. I mean, Chautauqua County is a little bit, but Chautauqua County, for example, is closer to Ohio and Pennsylvania, which is opening up. So that doesn't make any sense that those counties should be, held back because Erie County and the city of Buffalo is really having the problem. So,
right.
Isolate that county in isolated Buffalo and Erie County, but let the other counties open up. But I think that's where some clarification needs. But if it's done by economic development zones, if they're going to stick to that, that could be problematic for Allegheny County businesses and residents and along the western part of the New York, which is, I know Congressman Tom Reed's been talking about that. He's going to continue to talk about that too. Obviously, he represents all the way to Chautauqua County. He's been doing his research, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more from him along that issue as well on this issue. But yeah, that's a concern I think we all have. Open up the region, but to isolate Erie County, yes, okay, that's one thing. But don't hold hostage Allegheny and Cattaraugus and these other counties. I mean, they should be able to operate. We're right on the border of Steuben County. I mean, it doesn't really make any sense to me. So hopefully we can get some of that clarified as well along the way, and hopefully the governor will address some of that and not lump them all together just because they're in the same economic development zone.
Okay, kind of a political question here. Some of the conservative commentators believe that the Democrat governors, and I'm talking about national conservative commentators, not New York State commentators, national conservative commentators, some of them have been saying that they think that the Democrat governors are going to keep stalling any kind of reopening until after the November elections in order to make it tough on Trump. What do you make of that theory?
Well, I would hope that's not true. I always hate to get into these theories about what's going to happen.
I'm only bringing it up because a lot of people are saying it. What do you see any evidence for that in New York State?
It makes no sense. I mean, I think these governors need to do what they can to get their economy open up again. Because if we don't, then we're going to have bigger financial problems in our states. Because to keep the economy closed down until after the election. Think of all the lost sales tax. Think of all the lost income tax. I mean, it'd be very problematic. So all they would be doing is hurting themselves and the people of their states that they represent. That's not leadership. That's not the way to go about it. And I just can't imagine that they're going to operate in that fashion. But I just hope they don't, at least. But it's very concerning when you hear things like that. And hopefully there's none of these people are thinking along that lines, because the longer you keep our economy shut down, the less revenue and it's more drastic cuts that are going to need to be made all the way across the board. And I don't think that's going to be helpful, especially when things are starting to turn around, at least in this picture of the exposures and the infections. We're on the downturn of this, I hope, especially here in New York. So it would make no sense to just continue to try to stay shut down just to say, hey, I'm going to get President Trump. That doesn't make any sense. That's not in any state's best interest to just stay down for political purposes to try to get President Trump out of office.
In fairness to both the commentators and Governor Andrew Cuomo, it's been a lot worse in New York State than it has been in other states. So maybe that theory works other places. I don't think so much here in New York State. Unemployment claims, Assemblyman Phil Palmesano, for weeks now, there's been talk about the Labor Department being overwhelmed with unemployment claims. What are you hearing on that topic lately?
Yeah, no question about it. First of all, listen, we're definitely in unprecedented times, and to say that, that would be an understatement. But the unemployment system was never designed to take the volume that they're receiving. But I can tell you, myself, Senator O'Mara, Assemblywoman Burns, Assemblyman Giglio, Senator Burrell, all of us have been inundated with individuals that are having problems getting callbacks, getting their claims processed, and it's unfortunate. It shouldn't be happening. We have individuals that have been waiting 4, 5, 6 weeks to get a callback, get processed, and that's just unacceptable with the amount of people they're putting on. And I think it becomes more frustrating to me and others when you hear Governor Cuomo and most of the Rosa on there saying, listen, I understand you're not getting your check, and that's not acceptable, and it's hard, but don't worry, you're still going to get your check, and it's going to be backdated to the time you need it. But that doesn't help an individual who's trying to decide on which bills to pay, who's trying to decide on which medicines they're going to take. And we've heard those stories, Brian. All of us, all the legislators have heard those stories of individuals out there that are struggling and they're hurting, that are trying to decide whether to put food on their table. Stories of making sure their children have food so they're not eating. I remember one story coming into my office that the individual talking to my staff said that I had to decide which medicines I'm going to take, my diabetic medicine or cholesterol or blood pressure. So I decided to take my diabetic medicine because they couldn't afford the copay because they haven't got their unemployment insurance check. And I think to have individuals having to wait 3, 5, 6 weeks to get a call back. I mean, it's been a whole consistent message that's been really frustrating, and I think there really needs to be more transparency and then a look into this. Public hearings, I don't know if you need investigations, but we need something, because this started out, Brian, where problem after problem. I'll give you just some examples of the problems where individuals will get online to try to register, and then they'd be halfway through it, and then they'd be bounced off because of how the internet service is, or that they were supposed to get a call back, and then they'd call in, and they'd finally get someone, but they wouldn't be, it'd be on hold, waiting over an hours, and then they end up hanging up. And then, or they would be on a call and they would get lost. And then they were supposed to get a call back. Initially, the governor's office and Department of Labor said, you'll hear back in 72 hours. Well, those 72 hours turned into weeks, and then they took 72 hours off their website, so they would not get no call back. And that's the frustration that people are having out there. And I can't tell you the amount of people that are frustrated and in despair and scared, don't know what to do, what action to take. I would just say, please, if anyone out there is having trouble, our office is there to help. We work through the Department of Labor. We're constantly sending messages. I've sent messages to the governor's office with a list of names. These people haven't heard back in over 3, 4, 5 weeks. Can someone please reach out to them? And it's frustrating to me and to all of us at the legislature when we see this inaction not happening. And again, I recognize the Department of Labor has been inundated. I understand that. But this has been almost 2 months that we've been into this now. People have been being laid off, and no one should be having to wait 5, 6 weeks for that check. I mean, it's just very discouraging. And it's almost like you want to say, okay, how about the labor commissioner? You don't get your paycheck until you get this resolved. And then you still can listen to the same order that the governor said. Hey, listen, you'll get your check when it'll be backdated, but let's solve this problem. I mean, come on, because people are hurting. I don't want people out there having to choose between which medicines they're going to take, or being able to put food on the table, or having to go to food banks to get food for their families. This is just unacceptable. So that's the frustration our individuals out there are facing, and that's the frustration of my colleagues in the legislature are voicing over this. We're getting calls all the time of people who are hurt, hundreds of cases on this across the board from everybody, and it's just unacceptable. So we need the Department of Labor to really get on top of this, clear this up, be transparent, and give people the resources they need to survive. So I'm hoping that they're making progress in this, but we continue to have people who have been waiting for weeks, and that's just unacceptable, and we'll continue to beat on the door of the Department of Labor saying, please act on these cases right away.
Assemblyman, I wanted to ask you, it had been, 2 or 3 weeks ago that Melissa DeRosa, the governor's secretary, put out, or said during a press conference that the Department of Labor had hired, 2,000 or 3,000 new employees, and is it possible they could hire even more to get through the situation to fill out these unemployment claims?
Well, they needed to be doing something to get these claims taken. I think there should be really no more urgent issue than helping these people get the funds they need to survive so they can pay their bills. They shouldn't have to be choosing between purchasing medicine or putting food on the table or making a car payment or a house payment or a rent payment, or a utility payment, or the utility is going to be shut off. I mean, it's just things like that are very concerning to me and my other colleagues. So, so let's put the resources, put the staff in place. If you have to take staff from other departments, then bring them over there to help. Because this should be an essential operation, period. So if it takes 3,000 staff, if it takes 5,000 staff, put whoever needs to be there to process this. Bring them over from other departments that are getting their paycheck, because the state's not really laying people off. So bring them over from other departments, train them, and tell them and help the people that need this help. Because we can't keep waiting. These individuals can't keep waiting for this to happen. It's just unacceptable.
We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. Stay with us.
And now a word from the PKA Drake Agency. Are you having financial hardship as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and are unable to pay premiums that are due? Your insurance company can assist you by suspending cancellation for non-payment and allowing you to pay the premium over a 12-month period. If your premiums are financed, you will be given 60 days to make your payment before cancellation of the policy is requested by the finance company. This also applies if you are a small business. That is, any business that is resident in this state, is independently owned and operated, and employs 100 or fewer individuals. In order to take advantage of these extensions, the insurer or finance company will need from you a written statement that you are having financial hardship as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. A recent executive order issued by Governor Andrew Cuomo set forth the details that insurers must abide by in implementing the premium relief that has been mandated for policyholders who are financially impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. If you have any questions about this premium payment assistance or need help with the process, please do not hesitate to email Lori Drake at this email address, ldrake@pkadrakeagency.com.
What can you do when your world is turned upside down? When keeping yourself and your family healthy seems like a huge challenge? You act. You turn things right side up again. At UR Medicine, we've redesigned our whole approach to care to give you the access you need, the safety you expect, and the confidence to act now. A lot has changed, but one thing hasn't. Moving forward will take medicine of the highest order. Visit redesigned.urmc.edu.
Back with Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. We've got Steuben County District Attorney Brooks Baker coming up on Newsmaker at 8:30. Assemblyman Palmesano, when Governor Andrew Cuomo said the words Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation the other day in terms of using the Gates Foundation to reimagine education in New York State. That caught a lot of attention. I know just from looking at Facebook pages, both from those who are on the left and the right. When you say the word Gates, some red flags go up for, I think, both sides. What are your thoughts?
Well, and it's not just the Gates Foundation, Brian. I think what really alarmed a lot of us, too, as well. On top of that, and couple that, and I can tie this all together, is when the governor really made questionable marks about the viability of returning to the classroom. Long-term option is being in the classroom. And I think that type of reimagining of our state's education system would be a nightmare for our kids. And I think it really gets down to all these emergency restrictions and orders we're seeing that's in place by the governor were really sold to New Yorkers as a temporary measure to help stop the spread of the virus, not really meant to be a radical, permanent change to our everyday life. And when it comes to our kids and teaching in the classroom, our kids learn so much about social interaction in our schools. They learn how to make friends, how to resolve conflicts, how to collaborate. And our special needs children, they receive so much in life-changing services in the classroom setting, and that in-person interaction, Brian, is critical to our student growth, our learning and achievement. And certainly our dedicated teachers and educators have really done a great job in getting this distance learning off the ground, and it's really a credit to their skill and their ability. But let's make one thing really clear. There's no replacing the experience of learning in the classroom. And on top of that, Brian, many students and families, particularly in our rural communities, do not have access to a reliable internet connection and other needed technology. And this was a problem that was evident before this crisis, but it just was clearly manifested to it. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying technology isn't important, and we shouldn't be incorporating technology, but technology is meant to be a tool to help provide assistance in educating our children, not a replacement for actual teaching and learning in the classroom. So what I've said, let me be very clear. Our students and teachers belong in the school and in the classroom, period. And when it comes to the Gates Foundation and Governor Cuomo, with them, it's been really a heavy focus on standardized testing and certainly the disastrous Common Core program, which had consistently stifled the creativity of our teachers and the authority of local school districts. And I just think that the governor should be reaching out to our teachers, our principals, and our school superintendents and our parents if we really want to continue to work to improve and fix and improve the outcome of our kids and fix our schools and help provide resources to our schools. Or if they want to, if the Gates Foundation wants to help, provide the resources so we can expand broadband and internet to service to every family, every school, every individual, and especially in these rural communities who don't have it, because there's numbers of stories of individuals, of families, students who don't have access to the internet or good access to the internet, having to travel to a parking lot to do homework. So this just creates that disparity and that separation between have and have-nots in our communities. So at least when they're in a classroom learning, they have an equal shot. But when we're just saying you're going to learn remotely, I think that's a big problem, and I don't accept that premise that we have to go to all online learning. We can't accept it. I don't think the public's going to accept it. Our kids need to be in the classroom. Our teachers need to be in the classroom teaching them. Sure, let's implement technology to help as a tool, but certainly not as a replacement for actually teaching and learning in the classroom. Because going down that road of just remote learning would be a nightmare and would not help, and we're not going to give the education to our children that they need and deserve. We need that one-on-one interaction, and I can't stress it enough, both for our students and also, again, I have to go back to our individuals with special needs. They need that one-on-one interaction. That's how they grow. That's how they adapt. That's how they change. That's how they accomplish and get more self-worth and more self-esteem by having that interaction. If we limit that and just say, hey, you're going to do it all by technology and by computer, that's not going to work. Just like the standardized testing hasn't worked, that doesn't work for our kids. This remote learning is not going to work for our kids in the long term. So we need to get back into the classroom, get back into schools, and make sure implement some protocols. But my goodness, our kids are going to learn and grow and achieve more by being in the classroom with the teachers helping to teach them. That's how this should work.
Okay, not to get into the Bill and Melinda Gates conspiracy theories, but when the governor mentioned the Gates Foundation, is he just talking using them for technology, or is he talking curriculum? Because from what I've heard, Gates was very involved in Common Core, too.
Exactly. Well, you're absolutely right, Brian. I think that's a fear. That's a worry we have, and that's where that sparked off a lot of concern from people as well. And that's what I said when I put out the statement, that the standardized testing and the disastrous Common Core program were things that they were advocating and pushing. So yeah, I hope it's to help provide resources just for technology purposes, but our school boards and our regents should be determining curriculum, not Bill Gates, not the Gates Foundation, but Governor Cuomo is trying to get attention with this issue. I just can't get away from his comments where he said, well, he didn't know about the viability of learning in the classroom. I just think that's the wrong approach. Yes, we have to get through this health situation, and we will together. But to say that we're going to not get back into the classroom, or to hint that we're not going to get back into the classroom, I think that's the wrong approach. And I think that brought up a lot of red flags. It certainly did for me. That's what prompted the statement I put out there. That's what prompted my comments on this issue. Again, technology is a helpful tool. And let me stress, it's a tool to help provide assistance in educating our children. It's not meant to be a replacement for the actual teaching and learning in the classroom. So use it as a tool, not as a replacement. And again, what about the problems we have? We can't go down that road. We have too many families and individuals that don't have that access to that reliable internet and certain technologies. We have to address that anyway. That needs to be addressed, but this would be even more problematic for them if we continue down this road. It can't happen. It just can't. I don't accept it as the way we have to go, and I know I'm not alone in that opinion, but certainly when you hear Reimagine Education and the Gates Foundation and not going back in the classroom, that's going to bring a lot of red flags from a lot of people, certainly myself, my colleagues, and I'll continue to speak out against it because it's not the right thing. It's not going to provide our children with the best possible education they deserve and need, so they can grow and succeed and achieve in the future.
We've been talking with Assemblyman Phil Palmesano. Assemblyman, I want to thank you so much for calling in live this morning.
Thank you, Brian.
And we've got Steuben County District Attorney Brooks Baker coming up. Stay with us.